very welcome to you. It's a privilege to have your company on this week's edition of the program. This is where you get the latest happenings in the world of business. My name is Loretta. Glad you could join us. On the lineup this week, we bring you exam from Dr. Muda Yusuf, Director, Chief Executive Officer, Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise Presentation at the 2026 Lcci Agricbusiness Outlook, where he spoke on policy and business. Giving Dr. Yusuf a pedigree, he did justice to the team. Let's take a listen.
In other parts of the world, there are programs to shield farmers and investors in agri against shocks of sharp drop in prices. So that's a major policy lacuna. If we are foreseeing that prices will drop, there has to be a framework to protect people who have invested in that sector. Otherwise, people will walk away from agriculture.
On this edition also, we bring you highlights from the 2026 Vanguard Economic Discourse, which was recently held under the theme Food Security and Socio-Economic Stability. Options for Nigerian Agriculture Center rebound at the Civil Center here in Lagos. Besides the high level of personalities that grace the event every year, it has also gained a reputation of being a no-hold-barred platform on the national security. The year was no exception. Take a listen.
When you listen to government leaders and when they talk, you begin to wonder, is it the same Nigeria they're talking about? Because what they normally say is normally different from what is going on in reality.
The vast majority of our 230 million people do not feel the economic growth that is being mentioned because they are not eating well. There is no household comfort. How do you do that? You look at agriculture from the 6 geopolitical zones and identify the staples in each zone and make sufficient effort to optimize the production of those staples in that or in those zones. That is the only reason the man in Imo State will not feel that if you are giving them rice and rice that is not food, you have done nothing. If they prefer yam, for instance, as gari, you make sure that yam and gari are produced optimally so that those people will have food security.
This and many more line up for your viewing pleasure. Do sit back and enjoy this section. Details coming up shortly. Please stay with us.
Nigeria's agribusiness policy is anchored on strengthening food security through expanded domestic production, productivity improvement, and reduced dependence on imports. Interventions prioritize improved inputs, mechanization, irrigation, storage, coordinated cultivation to stabilize supply and moderate food prices. And one of the policy measures we have seen, which is not exactly an agri policy but a trade policy, was the importation of food that we had December 2024. But the effect of that importation was with us throughout 2025. The impact was so much that I had to call the Nigerian Customs Service that this thing was a program that should have ended in 2024. Why is the effect still lingering on food prices up till now? Well, they said, well, it was a waiver that was given, it ended in 2024, and that has not been renewed. And we are all witnesses to the impact on prices. And the dilemma with that was that those of us that are citizens were happy that prices were crashing. People who are investing in agriculture were lamenting that they were making losses. That was a major dilemma. And you need a right policy architecture to deal with such situations. In other parts of the world, there are programs to shield farmers and investors in agriculture against shocks of sharp drop in prices. So that's a major policy lacuna. If we are foreseeing that prices will drop, there has to be a framework to protect people who have invested in that sector. Otherwise, people will walk away from agriculture. You tell them to go and buy a tractor at market rates. It can't work. You tell them to go and buy seedlings or peasants at market rates. It cannot work. These are evidence of market failure, which requires active policy intervention. And we cannot be tired of saying that the government needs to support agriculture more and more. And it's not only the federal government, it's also the states, it's also the local governments. That is extremely very important. So the proper objective is to reposition agriculture from subsistence activity to a resilient, productivity-driven food system capable of supporting industrial growth and export competitiveness and macroeconomic stability. There's also a policy on finance. Public financing for agriculture is expanding through concessional credits to small holders. The capitalization of agricultural finance institutions, we heard that Agricbusiness has been recapitalized to about 1.5 trillion. Now, whether that has happened or not is a different matter. Now, this pronouncement was made almost a year ago. This is what I was saying about the gap between policy and reality. So as an investor, you have sat down and put your business strategy around the fact that the Bank of Agriculture has been decapitalized. You are going to take loan at single digits. The assumption will collapse. And once the assumption collapses, the business model itself will collapse. This reflects policy recognition. I'm talking about policy now, that affordable long tenor capital is central to productivity. The result is progressively de-risk financing environment, stronger institutional commitment to sector transformation. Then we have the investment incentives. There's a bit of incentives for agriculture within the tax reform. Fiscal and tax reforms are being calibrated to attract private investments across agribusiness value chains. Tax holidays, capital investment reliefs for processing and storage, and broader fiscal exemptions improve project viability and shorten payback periods. Agribusiness is therefore emerging as a priority frontier within Nigeria's economic diversification and non-oil growth strategy, supporting stronger medium-term return prospects for patient capital. Then there is policy on technology, infrastructure, and value chain modernization. Policy focus is shifting towards digital agriculture, farmer capability development, and rural infrastructure, especially roads, energy storage, and connectivity. Investments in agro-industrial processing zones, livestock development, and agro-processing capacity reinforce the transition from primary production to value addition and industrial agriculture, expanding opportunities in logistics, cold chains, animal protein, and processing and agri-technology. Then there is also issues around risk. That's risk around agriculture and agribusiness. Structural risks remain significant, including security in food processing regions and productivity constraints. Policy trade-offs between consumer food affordability and producer profitability may also create uncertainty around trade and pricing dynamics.
Nigeria's premier business and financial newspaper, Vanguard, recently put together its 2026 economic discourse in Lagos at the Civic Center. The discourse this year was organized under the theme Food Security and Socio-Economic Stability, Options for Nigeria's Agricultural Sector Rebound. As expected, it was a gathering of who is who from all walks of life. Welcoming guests to the event, Mr. Eze Anaba, managing editor of Vanguard newspaper, noted that an economy cannot be said to be performing if its citizens cannot feed themselves.
This year's theme, Food Security and Socio-Economic Stability, Options for Nigeria's Agricultural Sector Rebound, reflects that urgency. Our position is simple. No matter how strong the macroeconomic output may appear, an economy cannot be said to be performing if its people cannot feed adequately. To enrich this conversation, we have brought together key international development partners, including FAO, AO, and IFA, alongside strong representation from government, the private sector, and organized agricultural groups. Agriculture remains Nigeria's largest employer, yet low productivity, limited access to quality inputs, climate shocks, and weak market linkages continue to constrain its full potential. Subsistence level, provide food and nutrition, and insecurity persist across the country. We expect this discourse to interrogate practical solutions ranging from improved aggregation and post-harvest systems to agro-processing and expanded market access across key value chains. There is also a clear need to strengthen agricultural research and extension services, expand access to improved and climate-resilient seeds, and accelerate development of a national digital commerce registry. Equally important is the deployment of digital advisory tools, including localized climate and weather intelligence, to support farmers' productivity and resilience. As noted by the World Bank and other stakeholders, reform in seed and fertilizer regulation, expansion of early generation seed systems, and stronger private sector participation in input supply will be critical. We must also ensure transparency in farmland investments, alongside stronger coordination, monitoring, and citizen engagement frameworks, particularly to support inclusion for women and youth.
Delivering the opening remarks, the representative of the chairman, Honorable Mukhtar Meha, Professor Eustace Iyayi, said that livestock plays a critical role in food nutrition, hence the ongoing transformation at the Ministry of Livestock.
Agriculture remains central to Nigeria's economy. It contributes approximately about 24 to 26% of the national GDP and employs close to 35 to 40% of the labor force, making it one of the largest sources of livelihood in the country. Yet, despite this significance, Nigeria continues to face persistent food insecurity challenges. According to estimates from FAO and World Bank, over 25 million Nigerians are still at risk of acute food insecurity, while food inflation has remained above 30% in recent periods, significantly eroding the purchasing power and deepening poverty. This paradox of abundance in resources or scarce in outcomes highlights the urgent need for structural transformation, which, of course, we know the government has also been actively working on. For livestock, the strategic role of livestock in food security stands at the heart of this transformation. As livestock and lives, the transformation lies in the livestock sector also. Livestock contributes about 5 to 8% of Nigeria's GDP and accounts for nearly 1/3 of agricultural GDP. Beyond these figures, livestock plays a critical role in nutrition, particularly in addressing protein deficiency. Average per capita animal protein consumption in Nigeria is estimated to be about 7 to 10 grams per day, which is far below the recommended minimum of 20 grams per day.
Delivering the keynote address on the theme of the discourse, the keynote speaker, Dr. Hussein Gadin, United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO resident representative of Nigeria and ECOWAS, noted that any meaningful rebound must be geared towards smallholders, farmers, especially women and the youth.
It is important to recognize the structure of Nigeria's agriculture. More than 80% of farmers are smallholder farmers, and they account for about 90% of agricultural production. Any meaningful rebound, therefore, must be designed to work for smallholders, and especially women and the youth of this country, through improved productivity, risk management, inclusive market, and strong rural services. Let me mention a few pathways for agricultural sector rebound. To drive food security and reinforce Nigeria's socio-economic stability, I would like to highlight 5 strategic options. 1. Boosting productivity through sustainable and climate resilience agriculture. Nigeria must move beyond subsistence farming and pursue sustainable, high-yield production without compromising environmental integrity. Sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. Scaling climate-smart agriculture, improving access to better seeds, animal breeds, fertilizers, and water management is essential. Investment in research, extension, soil health, and mechanization, especially for smallholders, are critical. The problem today is not AI or innovation, it is infrastructure. If we look at the value chains, infrastructure is missing. FAO has observed positive results when farmers have access to technologies, information, and support to adapt to climate risks and markets.
As always, the high points of the Vanguard discourse was the panel session. Panelists this year were Mrs. Dede Ahuefa Ekwa, Country Director, United Nations International Fund for Agricultural Development, Dr. Moji Davis, GMD and co-founder, Extra Large Farms and Resorts Nigeria and UK, Architect Kabil Ibrahim, founder Kebram Farms Limited, Honorable Muhammad Mogaji Gadato, President All Farmers Association of Nigeria, AFAN, Professor Eustace Iyayi, and Engineer Manuf Ajenifuja, representing the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. Moderator of session was Professor Franklin Noaimeka Ungu, Director, Lagos Business School Public Sector Initiative.
Insecurity in Nigeria is increasing on a daily basis. We also know that even with all the reforms going on, our poverty rate is on the increase. We are being told that about 63% of Nigerians can be classified as multidimensionally poor, which means that they cannot afford education, health, and other basic necessities of life. So the question then is, with all these policies, what is the issue with regards to translating it into tangible outcomes? So that when we see it, we will know. When we hear it, we can connect. So let me start by asking Prof, what is the disconnect between all that you are doing in livestock ministry and also in that agricultural sector? What is the disconnect that all that you are doing, we Nigerians, we are not seeing it, we are not feeling it, we are not observing it? And you know, sometimes when we hear you, it seems that all these policies are being implemented only in Abuja and more in maybe Transcorp Hotel or maybe any of the posh hotels. So, Honorable Minister, please, where is the disconnect coming from? Thank you, Prof.
I quite understand what you are saying. But first, let me say that the Livestock Ministry was created in July 2024. So we are not yet 2 years old, but we are running like the cheetah, I can assure you of that. If you have followed the activities of the Honorable Minister, you will know that we hit the ground running. And so we are looking at a sector that has been there, but the instruments to actually organize and transform it has been put in place not up to 2 years. I get the question you are asking, but that is not to say that efforts are not being made. I understand the problem of insecurity. We have never shied away from that. But I can also tell you that livestock production is one of the non-kinetic ways we can solve the insecurity problem. If I begin to outlay here all that has been put in place to ensure that, we probably might have a summit that will run into 2 or 3 days. But let me just say, for example, that one of the measures being put in place is the transformation of the grazing reserves to ranches. We understand how pastoralism has been practiced, but again, it will be, we will not be true to ourselves if we believe that this can go away in just by a fiat. So, a ranching policy has recently been announced. 417 grazing reserves in the country have been digitalized. Before, they have been there, but mostly abandoned. But efforts have started to begin to reposition these grazing reserves. And as we speak now, action has started in 3 of them. Cow grazing reserve in FCT, the one in Gongoshi in Gombe State, and one other one in Adamawa State. So what is involved is it's not small money. So as funds come, where it's been redirected to areas that we know that we can have very quick answers and also help to solve some of these challenges.
Speaking during the panel session, Honorable Gatado employed the federal government to set up a conflict prevention committee that will minimize herders and farmers' clashes across Nigeria.
All what we need is our farms, our members to be secured. But the government, we believe they have been doing their best, but we need more and more. If the government, number one, the issue of farmer-herder conflict is part of the problem, not only the bandit. I know so many states that are having this problem, but for one reason or the other, they are not able to curtail it up to now. We suggest that the federal government should constitute a committee at the national level, not state conflict resolution committee. It should be called conflict prevention committee, because we had that one when I was the commissioner of agri in my state. My governor constituted a committee called, it was conflict resolution, but he said no, don't allow it to happen, prevent it from happening. So therefore he called it conflict prevention committee. And that was the reason why, as of today, the conflict between farmer and herder is so minimal in Gombe State.
Lending his voice to the discourse during his vote of thanks, Mr. Dele Oye, past President Nasima, employed government to put Nigerians first before foreigners.
Nigeria is the only country in the world where anybody can come in here, do anything they like, don't pay tax, and they leave. That should not happen. You have to protect your own people. If Dangote was not supported today, just imagine our energy security, what it will be. So government needs to facilitate its own people first. Put us first before foreigners.
The Vanguard economic discourse, now in its 10th year, has continued to be the needed platform between policymakers and the organized private sector for in-depth economic conversations.
This is our time on the program this week. Many thanks for your company. Join us same time, same station next week for a fresh package. In the meantime, feel free to connect with us on all our social media platforms and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. My name is Loretta. From the team, it's a goodbye.